I've had a pretty complicated religious background growing up. I had one parent who was very openly religious and Christian, and then I had another parent who was a bit closed off about religion as a whole. So it was a little bit complicated for me as a younger child to figure out kind of where I stood within my beliefs, but it was always kind of a subject that wasn't super openly talked about in my household until my parents got divorced. My parents got divorced when I was in about 7th grade. I was in that stage of my life where things were already challenging. It's one of like the worst stages of growing up. It was really hard on my family, even though it could have been expected. So first semester was super fun. I was really excited to finally have a new and fresh start. Everything was somewhat normal. I mean, more normal than we're living today. You know, I got to be social and go through recruitment fully without having to deal with pandemic. However, second semester is when I really saw my mental health take a turn. My mental health has always been a large part of my life. I've always suffered from anxiety from even before I can remember. Probably like 3 or 4 years old, I was suffering from very severe anxiety and OCD. First semester, anxiety was maintained and controlled very well, but I also feel as though first semester I didn't have as strong of a relationship as God as I really wanted to coming into school. Second semester, when everything began with the pandemic and we were eventually sent home from school and didn't really know what was going to happen, whether we were going to come back or, you know, the semester was over. Nobody really knew what was going on. A lot of worrying began to happen. I pretty much just gone through recruitment, and we had like 3 or 4 weekends together as a new member class. And I was really excited about all these new friends that I had made. And I was so excited to keep furthering our relationships. Finally, I felt really happy with where I was at IU. And I think that automatically when the school told us, okay, you're going home for 2 weeks. We don't know what's gonna happen, but there's a global pandemic and we don't know what's going on. I was super worried that I had just gotten so close to being at where I wanted to be at school, but then it had gotten ripped away from me. It was also just the fear of things never being normal again. The constant worry that, okay, I'm a freshman, but when we come back as sophomores, are things gonna be normal or am I totally missing out on my entire college experience? Honestly, at that point, I think I was completely hopeless about this situation. And in a sense, I had lost a lot of faith in God and in our world. And that was the first time that I'd really struggled with losing faith in God. And it was really scary because, I mean, I had never experienced anything like that. And he had always been my rock leading up to that. So, I mean, that was a very significant time in my life, feeling as though I had lost my connection with God and my rock. Second semester is when my mental health definitely took a turn for the worst. But also second semester is when I met Tori, who is my leader through Greek IV. I was introduced to her through my boyfriend, actually, who is also in Greek life at IU. We had already all gone home because of the pandemic, and I was meeting with Tori weekly for our weekly discipleship one-on-one via Zoom. And all of a sudden, she was just asking me these great questions about, you know, where I wanted to be in my relationship with God, but also like where I was at currently and how I was feeling. And she just knew exactly what to ask. And I just all of a sudden had this overwhelming feeling of peace enter my body. And it's nothing that I could even describe, but I know it's something that both Tori and I could feel in that moment, which is so powerful considering we were in totally different towns over Zoom. It was just this overwhelming sense of God's presence coming over me, and it was in a time of very severe anxiety in my life. And mid-COVID March, the worst point of COVID that we had reached, and I just felt God pick up that anxiety in me and take it with him. I truly at that moment knew that I was a child of God and that he was my rock, more so than I'd ever felt before. And really what I've tried to change in my life is that when I'm feeling really anxious or really disappointed about something that's going on, maybe in the world or in my life, or if it's just a really hard week, I try to make my first response of that anxiety to be to go to God and just talk to him. I am so happy to have already established that foundation with Jesus and God with my mental health and looking at him as my rock. So going into this pandemic in times of, maybe a low mental health day or week or even month, I can turn to God and I know that he will help me get through it. One big thing that I've taken on this year is a discipleship or Bible study with women in my chapter, and I've been leading them through the book of Mark. I wanted it to be a safe space for all of these women to just come and ask questions or learn more about God. And, they've told me on the side personally that they've really felt an overwhelming sense of Jesus's presence in their life. Greek life can have probably one of the worst reputations of any organization or club on campus. But really what I love about Greek IV is that it provides that outlet for these people who are usually turned away from other religious organizations to still be able to, keep up with their friends by, I don't even know, going to frat parties or, doing other sorority and fraternity events, but also express their religion and understand that God still loves them and that they can still have that relationship with Jesus and further strengthen that relationship.